This M2 was a dream car for me. But having lived with it for almost a year now, I've come to some realizations which I think is very valuable to anybody that hasn't owned something of this type. There are some considerations which I'll talk about later in the video, which are all about the car. We'll talk horsepower and we'll talk rear wheel drive and limited slip diffs and all that type of stuff that you should know when going into something of this caliber. But what I want to start with is the human element. I want to start with the reality of owning a nice, fast car, because it's different than you might expect. Look, strap in for this one, guys. If you want to skip forward and hear me talking about the car, how it's really difficult to deploy 500 horsepower on the road, and if you want to see me come out of here sideways, you know, all that great stuff, just skip to the chapter below and I will talk about that stuff, and all that stuff's great. But stick with me, because I think the human stuff is even more important. Where do we start? This is a 60, 70, I think brand new £72,000 car. It's no small feat having the top of the tree. BMW have an entire segment of cars called M Lights because people can't afford to do this, or don't want to do this, or know that this is financially irresponsible. This badge here does mean a lot to petrol heads. So I'm going to take you all the way back. My family came to the UK with very little. I'm a first generation immigrant, which means I came to this country when I was 4 years old. I never thought I'd have a non-fake M badge on the back of my car. Like, that's ridiculous. It's only because my career went a certain direction and YouTube started to take off, and you guys like listening to me talk about bloody cars, that stuff like this is possible. But nobody prepares you for the reality of, okay, you have one of these on your driveway now, what next? And don't get me wrong, I mean, you guys have seen the title of the video. Fast cars won't make you happy. And yeah, if you go back and watch my first drive of this car, it's linked up here, you can see the first time I genuinely took it out on the drive and enjoyed it. And everybody would say that I was happy in that video, and I think that's true. There's some comments about male enjoyment and all that type of stuff, and all that stuff's true. Like, look, we're dudes or girls. It's an inclusive channel. We like cars. And yeah, that's a coming of age moment when you go full throttle in a fucking 500 horsepower car for the first time. I'm giving you guys the positives, but there are some very real negatives. Realistically, something like this is in the realm of £750 to £1,000 a month. Very few people are going out and buying one of these outright, right? That's not my case. If you've got a good mortgage maybe 10 years ago, that could be your mortgage. When I look back over the last year or so at the money I've spent on this car and compare that value to how I could have set myself up for the future, whether that be putting more money into the house, putting money in the stock market, this is a financially irresponsible decision. Cars depreciate. And generally M cars hold their value a little bit better, but I've lost about £5,000 just to depreciation in less than a year. Now, I don't know what kind of financial situation you guys are in, but that hurts me. £5,000 just poof, gone. I haven't had to put tyres on the car yet, but it's getting close. And that's, I mean, an axle of tyres is about £600, maybe £700. I mean, look at the width of these fucking things. Those are the fronts. 275 width, 285 at the back. They're absolutely massive. I've done a video about fuel economy in this car, and you can get good fuel economy. If you sit on the motorway and you're very gentle and you're in sixth and you just do 70, you can get like almost 30 miles to the gallon out of this thing, which is great. If you enjoy the car as it's meant to be and use all 500 horses, you'll drain a tank in 100 miles, and I've done that. That is the reality. And that's not very far. That was like 2 hours, 2-3 hours. So the first real downside of this car is financial, right? You basically, when you decide to do this, what you've done to your financial situation in your life is you've dug a massive hole, and you must continue digging if you're going to keep enjoying the car. You got to keep digging to keep enjoying, right? You got to pay to play. I'm doing okay, you know, I have a full-time job and I have this YouTube channel. And yeah, the YouTube channel will pay the monthly payment on this car. Another thing that's really horrible when it comes to depreciation is that this car has lost £5,000 in less than a year. And I haven't driven it that much. I've taken it from 9 to 15,000 miles. So I've done 6,000 miles or so. I'm very picky about the mileage that I put on this car. You know, when I had the Megane RS or when I had my Mini with 100,000 miles on, I would never ever think twice about going for a drive. I would be bored at home in the evening and I'd be like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll go for a drive. If the fuel efficiency and the mileage is not a concern, you will enjoy a car infinitely more. It becomes a barrier for your enjoyment of the car. If you've got a car that costs very little to run, you're not worried about destroying the tires or burning fuel or doing 1,000 miles and it decreasing the value of your car by £1,000, then you can enjoy the car more. You'll take it on more road trips. You'll take it to cool roads that are further away from your house. But as it stands with this, I can't do that. Or I don't feel like I can do that without pre-planning. Like I've got to plan a good route for it to be worth the mileage. And that's just a shit way to own a car and to enjoy a car. All of these points kind of coalesce and tie together for you to understand why fast cars won't make you happy. But here's the second point. I think for me, it's the reasoning behind buying this car being flawed. When I'm honest with myself about why I bought this car, I think a big part of it is I make YouTube videos, right? I wanted this view for my POVs. This is a cool thumbnail for POVs, was my logic. I think that was, honestly, like with all the tech and everything, it looks really cool and it's a great interior. And if you know, like you see the carbon and you can only get the carbon on the M cars, the carbon here, you can only get on the M cars a little M badge. So if a petrol head saw one of my thumbnails, they would realize, oh shit, that's an M2. This guy might actually have something to say. So if I'm honest with myself, is the way a thumbnail looks in a POV really a good reason to purchase a car, especially one of this value? And the answer is no. Like, yeah, did I want to have fun with the car and enjoy it? Yeah, absolutely. But has anyone ever made a purchase decision of cars of this value because of the way they look in thumbnails? I don't think so. I might be the only person in history to ever have done that. At the end of the day, I make YouTube videos and I need people to click to keep making YouTube videos. That is a shit reason to spend this much money. Because I honestly think my most viewed video of all time was 3 things you don't understand about driving fast. And in the thumbnail of that video is me in a Megane RS. And the interior in the Megane RS is nothing special. So, does the interior actually make any difference? I doubt it. The issue with all of this is that you develop resentment towards the car. You start to have a relationship that goes something like, shit, I'm paying all this money and I'm not getting to enjoy it. It doesn't feel good. The honest truth is, at the moment, I'm looking at potentially selling this and replacing it with, you guys are gonna laugh, an MX-5. I could film all the same videos. I could still do a skid coming out of here in an MX-5. It's gonna be infinitely cheaper to run. It's gonna hold, if I get a slightly older one, it will hold its value because it's already depreciated. And I'm just gonna go out every evening and enjoy it, rather than sitting at home watching videos about enjoying cars. Because I'm just like you guys, I'm a degenerate. All I do is watch YouTube videos. Okay, I think it's about time we get out on the road and we talk about some of the reasons behind the wheel that fast cars won't make you happy. I did promise you guys I'd come sideways out of here. As promised. Now, beyond all the human stuff, I've come to realize that fast cars are not good on the road. Generally, faster cars are going to be wider, they're going to be bigger, they're going to be a bit heavier, and they're going to be a lot faster than normal cars. And I actually think that makes for a bad experience on the road. Let me demonstrate. The majority of fun drives that you're going to have on the road are going to be on country lanes like this. Curvy little roads. Having a car that's really wide, this car is 1.91 meters wide, is detrimental. You have no room for error in your lane. Look how close I am to the white line, and look how close I am to the edge of the road. This car takes up almost the entire lane. And this is actually a fairly wide lane for a country road lane in the UK. What that means is it's harder to enjoy the car. There's less opportunities for you to enjoy the car. And also, one of my pet peeves is that tires are getting wider and wider and wider. For safety, it might be a good thing, but it means you have more grip. A lot of people will say more grip is great, the car's faster, you can go around corners faster. The thing is, on the road, if you had a section 205, which is like a standard, actually even fairly skinny tire for today, you could go round corners at the national speed limit, basically any corner you want. You don't need that much grip on the road. So that begs the question, why do they put bigger and bigger tires on these cars? It's because they want them to go faster on racetracks and have a good Nürburgring time and all this other rubbish that is actually of no benefit whatsoever to us on the road. What those really wide tires then end up doing is you need the suspension geometry to make use of them, which means the car gets heavier. The biggest issue for me is the steering. So now this is a BMW, and BMW are quite known for having numb steering racks. But this car, it's in the sportiest mode and whatever else, trying to help it as much as I can. But this car has no steering feel whatsoever at road speeds. When you're going above road speeds and you're risking your license and you're going very quickly, this car will start to communicate. As you approach the limit of grip, the front tires will start telling you some stuff. But I'm about to do 60 miles an hour, which is the speed limit here, on some of these roads. This steering rack will tell you absolutely nothing, because at these speeds, it has nothing to tell you. The car's like, yeah, no problem. What's the issue? But that's a fairly tight corner coming up, and it's just going to go round at 60. It doesn't really care. So that begs the question of what is the point of a car like this on the road then? Just look at this clip from a long time ago when I started my channel with a John Cooper Works Mini, and listen to how much fun I'm having at fairly low speeds on the road. You feel like you're going faster even though you're really not. Now, that type of enjoyment cannot happen in this car. This car has too much grip, and it has very little in the way of feedback. Road speeds in this car feel slow. I think the purpose for a road car should be to make you feel like a hero, to make you feel like you're going really fast and you're really driving. This car, and fast cars in general, do the opposite. They're overbuilt and over-engineered and over-specced and over-fast. So to them, doing a relatively sensible pace on the road is boring. And yeah, you'll get a little bit from the accelerator pedal, because the car's never going to stop having 500 horsepower. And that's always fun. But you know what the truth is? And I guess we're talking about power now. But the truth is, watch this. Third gear, full throttle. I'm not going to blur the speedometer. Like, why? Why do we have that? And how am I supposed to enjoy it? Because I just held my foot down for about 2 seconds, and if somebody caught me doing that, I go to jail. I go to court and I go directly to jail. It's not okay. And to feel like you're really driving a car and enjoying it, you want to use full throttle, but I can't, because immediately I'm doing stupid speeds. And look at this, even fast around corners. The steering rack tells you nothing. And look, you hold the accelerator down, you're doing 100 miles an hour immediately. It's just dumb. I think what I'm looking for is a slower car. That's a ridiculous statement. Fast cars make no sense. You will build up resentment towards your fast car Because when you take it out to do what you want to do, which is drive fast, it will be too fast for the road. And you'll be losing your license and you're just going to have a bad time. So then you're not going to want to use your fast car to drive fast. But then you're going to realize you're paying so much money for why? And what about the daily driving manners of a car like this? Well, no, it's not some lovely, comfortable thing to drive around town. It's a pig to drive at slow speeds. It hates going less than like 10 or 15 miles an hour. I thought I'd get more enjoyment and interactivity out of the car if it was a manual. And while that's true, and I'm happy I got the manual and it's very cool that it's the manual, it's a bloody pig to drive around town. It hates going slowly. It's too wide for most normal lanes. It is just not a good everyday car. I think maybe if you get the auto, they'll be a bit better, but they're still like, they're huge, they're really wide, people always look at you, they draw attention. It's gonna sound like the most ridiculous statement, but I dream about having a normal car, like a Toyota Corolla or something. I've actually bought a car that I've never posted a picture of on the internet, that I've just kept as low key as possible, because you get sick of how much attention this thing derives. People around the area where I live know that I make YouTube videos, and they know the car, and it just draws a little more attention than I would really want it to. The seating position is stupid because you're sat over the rear wheels. Like, for an example of what a pig this car is, watch how far I have to come out just to see around this car. So now my nose is all the way out, and only now I can see, but I'm taking up almost the entire lane because of the design of this car and me sat over the back wheels. Also, it's just like, you can't place it, you have no idea where the ends of the car are. Using them on a day-to-day basis is just stupid. This car doesn't fit here. Like, look how close I am to the cars. It's ridiculous. Look how close I am to this car. It's ridiculous. I take up the entire road. So no, fast cars won't make you happy. Actually living with these things, it just doesn't make much sense. And then you pay all this money to not enjoy the car. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I'll leave you guys with this story. So you might have noticed I moved house and I now have a garage. When I lived at my previous house, one day I'd gone out for a drive and I was coming back home, and in my rearview mirror there was this Range Rover. And at first I didn't really think much of it. It was black with tinted windows and there were two guys in the front. I was a fair way from home, maybe like 45 minutes from home. About halfway on my way home, I realized that I can still see this Range Rover. And I've taken a bunch of turns and whatever else, and it's still there. I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? And as I'm getting closer and closer to home, I'm realizing that this Range Rover is still in my rear view and still in my rear view. Now, I'm a poor kid that grew up in London, in Tottenham. So I'm no stranger to danger. So as I was getting really close to home, I thought there's no way I can take these people to my house, right? So I did a loop and I made 4 right turns and basically made a loop, and they must have realized I was onto them. And then they left. It sounds like a really silly thing to say because nothing actually happened, and I think I dealt with the situation really well. But it was scary. The day after that, I installed some security cameras at my house. I still have them, even at the new house. Once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, somebody would have a look at my car. And not in a good way. At the previous address, I didn't have a garage, I had a driveway, and this car was parked on the driveway. The motion sensors would alert, and it would show me that somebody was coming to have a look at my car and being a bit shifty and a bit dodgy. And this would happen about once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. This type of car attracts unsavory people. That's just the truth. It's just the reality of having nice things. That whole situation was a big reason why we moved. We're now in a quieter area. We've got a garage. The car's hidden. But that's just another example of the types of things you have to deal with a car like this. And if you're not prepared to deal with it, you're going to have a bad time. My name's Mick. I drive cars. Peace.